So my name is Raymond Borges. This is Eric Gershman, and we're going to be talking about student security competitions. The reason we put together this talk is that we've been participating in several of these over the last few years, and we wanted to share our experiences with you guys and tell you why you should participate and get involved and why they're fun and things like that. So I actually put a companion guide together to go with this presentation. It's on cyberchallenge.ninja is the website. It's got a link to the slides, and it also has tools and some of the challenges that we're going to be going over. And there's also a stenographically hidden challenge on there too. So if you guys can find it, you can work through those challenges. So as I said, my name is Raymond Borges. The way I got interested in this was back in 2009 in the SAIC gave a presentation at a job fair, and at the end of the presentation they put in a hexadecimal number. So you had to kind of work through that challenge, and at the end it said to email them your resume to try to get a job. So I actually worked through the challenge. I was the number 80th person to do this. It was the year before I graduated. So when I emailed them my resume, I really didn't get much of a response back because I didn't have any experiences. So they just basically said congratulations, but we don't have a job for you yet. So that kind of motivated me to get into information security more. So after I finished my bachelor's in computer engineering, I did a master's in information security. And then I decided to do a PhD in computer science and information security. So during the PhD, I actually got involved in more competitions like DC3, which was a Department of Defense hosted competition. And we actually won the graduate division, beating out 84 other teams. We also beat out all the undergraduate and high schoolers that competed. I also did a CCDC for 2 years. This is a collegiate level competition. And we got to the regional finals, but we never made it past that. So now, finally, I'm in my PhD, finishing off. I'm trying to do my dissertation. I work at Oak Ridge National Lab. And the topic so far is industrial control systems and security for those systems, and how to use machine learning for intrusion detection, those types of systems. So I'm going to hand it over to Eric now.
Hi, I'm Eric. So about 2 years ago, I played my first CTF, and since then I participated in a number of competitions. What I've learned is there's a lot of competitions out there, and there's a lot of student competitions out there that are open to the public. So I didn't get involved in this until several years after graduating. And yes, I'm old enough to be out of college. So I'm going to hand this, oh wait, sorry. So today we're going to be going over some of the background information on the competitions, and then we'll talk about what we participated in. And then if we have enough time, we're going to have a bonus round where we're going to go over some of the challenges that we thought were really interesting. Woo! Bonus round. So what's in it for students? One of the best ways to learn is through experience. And a lot of these competitions present problems that help you develop skills that are really applicable. So the really good teams out there, they end up traveling the United States, and they even go to other countries. They end up getting rewards like money, giveaways, and training. A lot of times that'll fund their travel so they can go and compete in other countries. And at these competitions, there's also a large representation from the community. There's recruiters, there's InfoSec professionals, and finally, it's just plain fun. There's a lot of puzzles and challenges, and solving puzzles is fun. The CTF team at Carnegie Mellon University, for example, they have a number of people on their team that aren't even computer science majors, that aren't in computers. And they really just play for fun. They're not playing to advance their career. So what's in it for volunteers? So there's a lot of ways for volunteers to participate in these competitions, whether it be mentoring teams and helping them compete. In some of the competitions, you can actually attack the competitors' computers, and you can be on a red team. And in others, they have they have a number of roles where you can play the executive role and kind of teach them the soft skills that are involved in information security. One of the biggest motivators for me is that it sharpens your skills. You learn a lot of new things as they're coming out. And by participating in these competitions and mentoring, you're helping shape the next generation of the industry. These students may be your new coworkers or even your boss. So what about everyone else? This is kind of where I fall into. I played a number of the student competitions on my own, and since these competitions are created for students, they're really ideal for anyone who's starting out in the industry. For me, Pico CTF was one of my favorite competitions because it had dozens of different challenges, and it let me figure out what I like in security, what I like to do, and where my limits are. I really quickly figured out where my limits are with Pico CTF. So Raymond is going to go over a little bit more about the details.
Yeah, so competing in these different challenges, we picked up a set of tools along the way that can help you be successful. So there's like three groups of tools. There's the hacking tools that you're going to use to solve the challenges, the communication tools that you're going to use to manage communication among the team members, and management tools for like long-term competitions. In the hacking tools, you want to investigate like what the competition is about, look into the past years of the competition, and see what challenges they use, like if the forensic challenges, are you defending, are you attacking, and then make sure you install all these tools and test them first on your computer. It's probably one of the biggest downfalls of all teams in these competitions that fail, is because they get to the competition and they're like, oh wait, we don't have this tool, or we don't have the password list to crack the passwords, even though we have the password cracker tool. So you want to be ready for that. And then second, you want to have these communication tools. You want to settle on how you're going to communicate with your team. So if it's a remote competition, you want to settle on Skype, or you're going to use Google Chat. What are you going to do? IRC. You just want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and everybody can log into the system and use it. And then finally, for these long-term competitions, for example, like DC3 was a 10.5-month long competition. It was year-long. So we needed to use like management tools. We were using Google Docs, Google Sites, and Calendar to manage like when we were going to practice, when we were going to try to sit down together and solve challenges as a team. It was a team of 4 in that case. And there's also like Trello, so you can like use that as a management platform as well. And then some of the techniques. So we want to make sure that the team is organized, everybody knows their role, who's the leader, who's doing what, make sure the tasks are distributed. So if people are practicing, you want them to focus on their soft or their weak skills. And then during the actual competition, you want people to each focus on what they're best at. So you want to build where you're weak at and then focus what you're best at during the competition. And then finally, the best probably tip is to actually social engineer the competition. So a lot of these guys, they're in security, they're sharing stuff on Twitter, they're posting on their blogs, how are they creating the challenges? And they actually like tell you a lot of stuff before the actual competition day about how they created it. And you can actually investigate this and get a lead ahead of all the other teams by doing this. So you want to make sure you do that. Also on YouTube, there's like a lot of videos from past competitions from past years. You want to watch them to get ready. So we're going to be going over the different competitions that we've done. I've done a few at the university level. Eric has done a lot of the public ones. We kind of grouped them by format. So I tried to just like invent a format for each one. So we've got like blue team versus scorebot. This is where you're defending computers and you've got a scorebot attacking you with pre-programmed attacks in it. So it's like checking for default passwords and things like that. Then you have blue team against red team. So you're actually defending your computers against actual people who are attacking from another network. And they're usually like professional attackers, pen testers, for example. Then very few, but probably the funnest ones are where you're the red team, and they are hosting a bunch of vulnerable machines for you to attack and try to exploit. And then once you exploit, you want to get passwords and crack those passwords and then submit those passwords to a scoring engine. Then you have like forensic flags. So there's other competitions where they give you cryptographic challenges, steganography, and you have to work through that and get the flag in the end. Some are multiple steps, and then you usually submit those through a web system or online quiz. And then finally, you got the Jeopardy style, which Eric is going to go over in more detail.
So, has anybody heard of or played Jeopardy CTFs? So, most of the competitions I played have been Jeopardy style. Much like the Jeopardy game, they're split into a number of different categories that are arranged by point value, and they're pretty loosely arranged by difficulty. And the different categories I've seen are reversing, exploitation. Exploitation is usually binary exploitation, where you're trying to hack into a service. Either it's vulnerable to maybe a buffer overflow attack or a format string attack. There's steganography. One interesting one I've seen is social engineering, where you have to find out as much information as you can or find a flag on a target by searching social media. So we're going to be going over a lot of cyber competitions. I'm going to be going over CyberPatriot. CyberPatriot I've mentored in, and then I've played Pico CTF and the Cybersecurity Awareness Week put on by NYU Poly. Raymond is going to be going over the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, the National Cyber League, the US Cyber Challenge, and that includes the Cyber Quest and Cyber Camps. So first I'm going to be going over CyberPatriot. That was a lot of cyber. So CyberPatriot is a middle and high school security defense competition that was created by the Air Force Association. Each team has to have a minimum of a coach to get started, and then a group of up to 6 students. The normal registration fee is $300, and right now they're waiving the fee for all girls teams because they're trying to promote women in information security and in IT. It's closed to the public for competition, but anyone can be a mentor or assistant. Now, the challenges are kind of interesting. They're similar to what Raymond was talking about with having a scorebot versus a blue team. I kind of consider them to be more like systems administration challenges. You start with the scenario where you're given a server that's vulnerable or backdoored, and you don't know anything about it, and you have to secure it or enable more services. So the season actually runs for almost the full year. It starts in April with a series of exhibition rounds. They're more like practice rounds that aren't scored, and then it ends in March with nationals. Finally, the way it works is that all of the teams play remotely unless they make it to state or nationals. So I tried to look through who's registered for a lot of these different competitions. CyberPatriot is the only one that makes it really easy to figure out who's in your area. I found that there's 17 so far in Knoxville. They're looking to create what they call a center of excellence in CyberPatriot in the East Tennessee area because it's so pervasive. In Chattanooga, I was only able to find one team, and it was a Civil Air Patrol team out of Tullahoma. And in Nashville, I really didn't find, I wasn't able to find anything in the area. The teams that are registered for the season can be found on the site. And when you go there, they have a Google Maps overlay. And this is kind of showing the area. Here you can see the concentration of the teams in Knoxville. And they're split up by the different categories. In CyberPatriot, they have JROTC, they have Civil Air Patrol, they have middle school and high school, and among others. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Scorebots. The competitors are given images. They're usually VMware images, and they can range from Ubuntu to even Windows 98. And they're tasked with remediating vulnerabilities in these images. I've seen that I've only competed in one exhibition round, and I was able to see what some of the easier challenges are. A lot of it was like guest accounts or accounts that shouldn't have been enabled, software that shouldn't have been installed. But in some cases, it can be much more obscure hardening. It can be that you haven't ran a certain antivirus or detected a certain backdoor. So there's a number of other categories in CyberPatriot that you can get to once you get to the later stages. Cisco is actually sponsoring a lot of CyberPatriot, and they're doing network quizzes and also simulations using their packet tracer. And they're actually scored simulations where the competitors have to set up network equipment. There's also categories that are kind of similar to CTF, but they're not scored the same way. So, for example, the forensics category, it's actually like a subcategory where you answer questions about the image. And as you answer them in a text file, the scorebot gives you points. So I think CyberPatriot is probably one of the safest competitions for minors. There's a number of checks and balances that are built in addition to what the schools implement. And that includes permission slips, background investigations for all adults, and an ethical code of conduct that's signed by all competitors and participants. I want to talk about the ethical code of conduct. One thing that it states is that the competitors are not allowed to use the skills that they learn in CyberPatriot to develop hacking skills or offensive skills. It also says that mentors are not allowed to teach competitors about hacking or offensive skills. I think this can definitely stunt a student's kind of growth in security, and that they can end up kind of seeking that information outside of the competition, which can be a little bit more dangerous. Now, they have a really good reason for doing this, though. It helps them be in more schools and be more pervasive. If they target this as a hacking competition, the PTA board probably wouldn't be too happy about letting it into the school. So this leads me into Pico CTF. Pico CTF is a computer security game that's targeted at middle and high school, and it's open to everyone. There's no fees. Everything is sponsored and covered by the sponsors, and it's a Jeopardy style game with an actual video game built in. Everything's through HTML5. You can play the entire game through the browser. The video game even has achievements like in-depth investigation for solving all the forensics challenges. The scored competition runs for a full week online, but the past competitions from 2013 and 2014 are open right now. You can go on the site, register, and start playing. One of the coolest things I saw in Pico CTF is their 2014 version includes a teacher mode where you can actually monitor the progress of several teams or classrooms. One more thing I wanted to mention was that since Pico CTF is open to everyone, they even have categories for homeschooled students. They have categories for students that want to compete but are on different schools, go to different schools. So it's really cool. In Pico CTF, you're dropped into your father's bedroom and he's kind of immediately kidnapped. He gives you a USB drive and says, "Protect this," and then is taken by his captors. In the game, you have to solve a number of different puzzles in order to figure out what happened. Eventually, you end up at a police department. When you get here, the police come to you and they say, the evidence that we found is really hard to interpret. Could you please help us? So basically, they don't even computer in this game. The police, each of the officers has different challenges that you go and you try and solve. So the problems range from really easy, such as this Tyrannosaurus hex challenge where you're just converting hex to decimal, and it includes hints like go search Google. In some of the later challenges, as it gets a lot harder, they provide much better hints, and they provide links to places to learn about the background information that you need to solve the challenge. It gets a bit harder as you get further in the game. For example, in this forensics challenge, you had to detect a backdoor in SSH. They give you a tarball of an SSH version that's been backdoored. You have to detect it and then reverse engineer it in order to figure out what the password was, what the backdoored password is. Now, I want to mention on Pico CTF, it's probably one of the best games to play if you've never played a CTF. It starts out very easy, and the progression is really gradual. One more competition that I've done is part of the Cybersecurity Awareness Week at NYU Poly. It's put on as a way for undergraduates to break into security. They have a qualifier round that you play, and it's played remotely, and it's open to everyone. And it's over a weekend, and then if you win the round and you're eligible, you can go on to finals in New York. So I played the forensics challenges last year. They were kind of the easiest for me. I played through them until I got to the last challenge. And the last challenge was, I'll go ahead and read it. "Oh no, we've been hacked," said the I Heart Fluffy Bunnies blog owner. The notorious Forgotten Freaks hacking group was known to be targeting high-powered politicians. Were the cute bunnies the next in their long list of conquests? Well, the fluff needs your stuff. I've pulled the logs from the server for you along with a backup of its databases and configuration. Figure out what is going on. So this was the one that kind of stopped me in my tracks. It was an actual backup of a website with the file system, the database, and all the logs. And you had to go through and forensically analyze it until you figured out how they exploited the site and then found a flag to enter into the Jeopardy scoreboard. This one was a lot of fun. It happens in spring, and it's pretty much open for everyone. So I wanted to talk a little bit about school-hosted CTFs. CSAW is one of them. Another one is put on by Carnegie Mellon's Plaid Parliament of Poning. Their Plaid CTF happens in mid-April. This past year, and I believe the year before, it was a DEF CON qualifier. So you could have placed if you placed first place, you can make it to the DEF CON CTF. They're also the host for Pico CTF. I looked up the Boston Key Party, which is also a DEF CON qualifier, and it looks like they originated from Boston University. The universities, they don't just host CTFs, they play a lot of the national CTFs and international CTFs. A good website for learning about what's going on is ctftime.org. And it's a repository for different competitors and what's going on, what's coming up. You could basically play a CTF every month from this site. As you can see here, this is the main leaderboard, and CMU's Plaid Parliament of Poning is at the top. And it's followed by Dragon Sector, which is another university team out of Poland. Even high school teams end up placing on the list. So Raymond's going to talk about some of the competitions he's participated in.
So the CCDC is a Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. I did this for 2 years when I was at West Virginia University doing the classwork for the PhD. I was in the Cyber WVU group that basically a subset of that was team members for the CCDC. So it's targeted at college students only, and the format is blue team, and they have a scorebot in the qualifiers, and then if you make it to the regionals and you pass the qualifiers, and they have the real red team attacking your machines, and you'll all be sitting around laptops defending them. So it's once a year, and like I said, it's the qualifiers are remote, and then the national championships are in person. So I'm going to show you a little video of to give you an idea what it's like. So in the video, it's recorded by the MACCDC, which is the Mid-Atlantic CCDC Regional. And it's basically an introduction to like the live regional competition.
It's not gonna work.
That's fine.
Yeah. There's no audio.
You can make it big and I'll explain it.
Yeah.
So you could maximize it. So there's like 3 parts to it. The audio is not connected, so I'll just walk you through it. It's basically the setup. A lot of these people who organize different conferences are the same organizers of this event. So this was for 2013. It was going on in April. It's a university hosted. So you have the teams arriving at the competition. There's blue team, there's red team, then there's also white team, who are the people who are actually setting everything up. You have 8 universities that go to the regional, and then there's 10 regionals. So the winners of the regionals go to the finals, which is the national championships. And this year, so there's different scenarios for each year. And this year they had like a military type scenario. You were like defending a military network. Some years it could be like a hospital, or you could be defending like a university type network. And in this case, you're going to have like a commanding CEO, which is actually a military officer. So the leader of your team, which is an 8-person team, has to like meet with him every so often and tell him like what the updates are. And this is an example, is like when one of the students was meeting with the military officer CEO. And then you see them like basically sitting around their tables. Each table has a router. Then the red team is in a separate room altogether. And they're just like hammering these blue team's computers. It's a 2-day event, so it's 48 hours. Once the first day is over and everyone goes back to their hotel room, the red team actually gets a chance to go in and physically access the blue team's computers and like reinstall Trojans, put in like flash drives. What's kind of cool is like some blue teams will actually set up the webcam of the laptop to take pictures of the red team when they came in to do like the physical interaction with their laptops, and they got evidence. So actually with this evidence, you could actually get red team members disqualified from the red team if you presented like a picture or evidence of something that they had done to modify your computer. Okay, you can stop it. So one of the tasks that you're going to have, or probably like the main task, is defending the critical assets. The critical assets are all the services that you're hosting. They have to constantly be on. They're monitoring for like how much uptime you have. So red team actually wins when they manage to either like take down a service, either like by breaking in, hacking the password, or just by spamming it, like doing a denial of service attack against it. You also have to maintain the integrity. So sometimes red team will break in and just like change stuff in the database. The second main task you have to do is injects. So like to simulate the real world environment, they'll have you like update user roles, add new users to the database, and then they're constantly scoring how many of these injects you actually manage to do, while the red team is trying to knock down your network. And then, like I said, they also score when you meet with the CEO. So how the team leaders' meetings go is actually scored. So this is the blue team area. The red team has their own area. White team has their own area. If you need like a help reconfiguring one of the machines, you have to go to the white team area, get a ticket, and then they'll come over and reconfigure one of your machines. But these are like the 8 university teams competing in the regionals. So they also have a lot of social media presence. They have YouTube videos. They have their Twitter accounts. They have the website for you to register on. You can follow them live on Twitter and get the updates for what's happening during the competition. It's all live. It's actually streamed. So it's got a webcam that's actually streaming all the events from the red team and from the blue team sides. They're constantly talking. The organizers are talking about like how it's going, and they're interviewing people from the different teams. It's really fun. So the red team also has their own Twitter account, and when they actually manage to break into your computer, they can actually like take a screenshot and post it on Twitter and like, ha ha ha, we broke in, to one of your computers. Here's your database. Look, it's on Twitter, and stuff like that. It's all fun. So the organizers actually decided they wanted to make it an event where they could be participating all year. So they have like online labs now, and it's called the National Cyber League. It derived from CCDC. So it's basically the same thing. You're actually a red team. they put on hosts in Amazon's cloud, and you get to attack this host in the lab environment. It's all safe and cut off from the rest of the internet. You're just attacking the host they specify. You get forensic flags. You have to break like password hashes from Linux. You get steganography challenges. And then at the end, you get a certificate for like the best password breaker. They also put you in different brackets. So there's like a gold, a silver, and a bronze bracket. So if you're not really expert in security, you can actually be a winner in the bronze or the silver brackets if you're not at the gold level. But then the gold level is like the overall grand champion, like to win the whole event. It's a national event online. So to win it, you have to win the gold category. And that's usually twice a year. Sometimes it's 3 times. This is an example of some of the challenges. It's also on the cyberchallenge.ninja website. That's a solution. So if you've been following along, you might have been able to crack that before I presented the solution. It's pretty easy. There's online tools that'll crack a lot of these basic crypto challenges. And then you got a basic password hash for Linux. It's an MD5. And you could probably crack that with John and using RockU. It's like standard password. So finally, probably one of the most interesting ones in terms of the prizes is a U.S. Cyber Challenge, which is divided into the U.S. Cyber Quest and the U.S. Cyber Camps. The U.S. Cyber Quest is an online quiz. It's held once a year now, and you get basically an online quiz. They could give you a packet capture or just standard questions for you to answer and submit answers online to this web quiz application. So if you do good in the quiz, you get to go to the camps, and it's all paid for a week at the university, and it's like free training and stuff like that. This is like one of the examples. So what file on a web server could contain a list of locations where a crawler cannot go to? So what do you guys think is the answer? Yeah, that's one of the easy ones. Let's go to the harder one. So which type of attack does this string represent? So you got ncat-n. Which one?
I think command injection.
Nice. So given the following URL scheme, what type of vulnerability would this web application most likely exhibit? So you got command injection, cross-site request forgery, cross-site scripting, session fixation. Anybody else? Nice.
Yeah, it's number 4.
So this thing has gotten so competitive now that not only are people getting 100% perfect on these quizzes, and I'm not talking about one person, I'm talking about like the top 100 people who participate are getting 100%. And this is like a nationwide, so they're all competing to get this free training, free travel, and free stay, and free food at SANS training 1 week at a university. So now people are actually scripting the quiz answers, because if you get 100% to get in the top 100, it's the shortest time to answer the quiz. So I've been seeing times like 1 second to answer the quiz. Well, actually, they're going to the finals. Those are the people who make it, and they talk about how they scripted the answers to the quiz. Oh, yeah? Oh, nice. That's good. I didn't know that. So, actually, the quiz is like 3 times. You get 3 chances. So I imagine that's how they were able to script it by the 3rd chance. So actually, this is the cyber camp, and the last day of the cyber camp, there's a capture the flag event. You're a red team. They give you a network of vulnerable hosts, and you've got, I think it's 4 hours to make as many flags by penetrating those vulnerable hosts and then posting the answers to an online scoring system again. There's actually a nice prize. I went twice. So I went 2013 and 2014. And so the first time I did okay. I was like 2nd place in the CTF. And the second time I didn't do well. You get $1,000 prize if you win and a letter of recommendation. I think it's from the Secretary of Defense, the letter of recommendation. So that's pretty cool. So you could use like for a resume or like job interview. This is an example, like some of the teams sitting around the table. Very similar to these events, I guess. They're really fun. This is an online scoring system, so you'll submit answers through this web application. And you'll be using tools like Kali Linux, which during that week of training, they'll teach you how to use Kali Linux, how to use Metasploit, the different tools in Kali. And there's also a job fair. So you get to like do like mock interviews with some of those different companies, and if they like you, they'll ask you for your resume and things like that. There's also an ethical part to it. They give you a 2-hour session discussion on ethics and why you should only hack systems as you're authorized to hack into. So that's about it for all the competitions that we've participated in. We've given you an overview of probably the best and most interesting ones. So like what's beyond like these traditional student cybersecurity competitions. So you've got these competitions that are recruiting people now through the NSA, CIA, the Navy, SAIC, and a lot of these competitions are sponsored by industry. So Raytheon, Northrop Grumman are sponsoring like CCDC and USCC now. So it can help, and they host their own challenges. And there's also some that we're not sure who hosted them. So they think it was a CIA or NSA. One of them is Cicada 3301. You could like Google that and check that out. And it was a global competition where you actually had to go to physical locations to pick up some of the flags. And then the Navy saw that and they was like, well, that's pretty cool. So they actually like made a copy of that. It's called Project Architeuthis, which is now Sleeper Shark. It's available through Facebook. And finally, like beyond competitions altogether, there's these unsolved challenges that people have been trying to solve for a long time, or there's like just mysteries. One of them is Cryptos, which is a sculpture at the CIA headquarters, and there's still one of the 4 passages is unsolved by CIA and NSA. They all tried and they failed. It was designed by Jim Sanborn, with the current director of the CIA in 1990. So we basically went over how you can use these competitions to build your resume, why you should compete. They're fun. They change the way you learn rather than like traditional university learning. There's like project-based learning. It's like team-oriented. So there's leadership involved. It helps you increase your leadership abilities, quickly pick up new skill sets, and there's prizes in it, like free training, which can normally be from like $5,000 if it's like SANS training. So thanks, and that's about it. You can get the presentation on cyberchallenge.ninja and do some of the other problems from other competitions. Is there any questions?
Check. Okay. Do you have any resources or know of any resources for people who want to put on CTFs or have these competitions for students or people like that?
I've looked into this a little bit. I have to admit that I haven't put on an actual CTF yet. A lot of the larger, like the institutions that put on the CTFs have started to open source their software that they're using for managing. Yeah. So for example, CSAW, they open source their CTF scoreboard, and it's called CTFD. It's on GitHub. And you can use that, create your own challenges, and then host the CTF. There's another one that I've seen that I've really wanted to try was Iron Geek's Net King of the Hill, and that's a really interesting CTF where it's scoring based on basically defacement flags. So you're able to set up services, and you act as the blue team. The people running it act as this blue team. And the competitors have to hack into the systems. I think it's a website, and then deface it in order to score points. And it keeps changing dynamically. You can find his presentation on that on irongeek.com. Or you could talk to him after the talk. He's right back there. Are there any more questions? Oh, go ahead, Zach. You should walk up to the mic. Thank you.
All right. Before the semester ended at Pellissippi, at my professor's security class, they had their own sort of CTF type deal. It's a very, very small one. It was supposed to act as our final exam, and we were lucky to have the guys from Soaring Shield to supervise it. But would you say that that would be a good introduction to CTFs, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's a great introduction to CTFs, and it's more. I'm familiar with the competition you're talking about, and it's put on by Pellissippi. I think it's by Jerry Sherrod. He's in the audience, and they're at the end of their network security class. They're basically given yeah, I've come to one of them. And it's more hands-on. You're given a vulnerable machine, and you're hacking other students' vulnerable machines. So it's a pretty good way to get started. The Net King of the Hill, you can use that as a scoring system too. I think, Jerry, in your class, you were using flags, right? Basically, if someone was able to get the flag of another student's, they got points for compromising that system. So yeah, for Net King of the Hill, you were defacing the service, and then you were getting points for how long you took control of it. One more thing, I think one of the most interesting things from his talk was that he had actually ARP spoofing attacks that happened, and those are totally allowed because in this kind of format they work. If someone keeps everyone else from defacing the service, they're scoring points. And then what would happen is the person running the CTF would fix the vulnerability and kind of level the playing field.
In this case, though, you didn't even have to truly deface the website. You just modified the traffic coming to and from the website to make it look defaced.
Oh, wow. So they were ARP spoofing the actual website to make it look defaced. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, one more thing. I also help run the DEF CON 865 group that's here in Knoxville. We meet the first and third Thursday of the month over at Knox Makers. This next meeting is next Thursday, and we're going to be going through the Pico CTF, some of the past Pico CTF challenges. You can find out more information about it on dc865.org, and there's also a mailing list that has information. So if is it on the site?
I'll post it.
Yeah, we'll have it posted. But the best way to get to it is dc865.org.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a little bit about the site. So it's just, I set it up for the presentation. So it has the link to the presentation, the tools that we use to go through some of the challenges that they do. And there's also in Stego challenges, for DC865, I created a steganographic challenge set. So you could try to work through it. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. So if you want to get into this, and like a member of the public, not a student, even though the public can participate in all the ones that we've mentioned mostly, you can get involved with this one. So that's actually, it's still loading. It's actually an image of just like a white cloud, and if you download it and you get involved with some steganography, you could manage to get a link to the challenge dataset, and it's got a presentation and stuff, so you could work through those challenges, and it tells you how to actually work through some of them. So that's really the last thing. Is there any more questions? No? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.